He who questions training only trains himself at asking questions.
That's right, upgraders. You don't need more hours in the day. You need more orchestration and less chaos. Most of us say, if I just had one more day in the week, one more hour in the morning, then I'd get my life together. Bad news, if I gave you an 8th day, you'd probably just end up with more chaos. Or if you're not on board with any of this, I love the Drew Carey quote where he says, "Oh, you hate your job? Why didn't you say so? There's a support group for that. It's called Everybody, and they meet at the bar." Today, I'm sharing how one weird nostalgic nightmare about sitting in my old orchestra chair with a cello in my hands turned into a whole framework for productivity. Motivation, time management. If you feel your days are noisy, scattered, or like everybody else is setting your tempo for you, well, then this one's for you. Last night, I had this intense, nostalgic dream. I wake up with my heart racing, my arms crossed under my pillow, like I'm back in high school, in orchestra, holding a cello. You know that half-awake moment where your body still thinks you're in a different life? Yeah, that. In the dream, I'm in a planning meeting with the acoustics team of a symphony hall. Total nerd heaven. We're talking about frequencies that we want the audience to feel, how the hall is shaped so that every seat gets great sound, why places like Disney Hall in Los Angeles are rated the #1 best rooms on earth to listen to music, how the Las Vegas Sphere uses speakers at every single seat at all different sizes and angles so that your experience is coherent no matter where you are sitting. If you're way up in the high seats, your speaker has to fire at a different time than the front row so that the sound hits everybody together. If they don't do that math, then the whole concert turns into echo soup. The second scene, I'm suddenly sitting in one of the most stressful places I've ever been in my life. It's called a sectional. It's where all the cellists are shoved into one room and there's no audience, there's no glamour. They just isolate the parts of the music at you the worst at. They argue over bowings, they talk about techniques, they lock in rhythm, they number the fingerings, they black out all the parts with pencil, they fix every ugly shift so that when we go back to the full orchestra, we're ready to disappear into the whole. This is where the real work happens. Tiny little chunks, ugly reps, time under tension. Then we skip to this third scene. Now we're back in full orchestra. The rehearsal is underway. We're stopping on individual measures. We're listening to how the instruments blend. We're figuring out when to push, when to lay back. And eventually we do a full run through and we feel this massive, imperfect, but powerful harmony coming together. Right there, I wake up and I realize my brain really misses that process. Not just performing, but building something together, layer by layer. It's something that we used to get to do all the time in New York City, where I was fully focused on the creative aspects of being a musician. While my life over the last decade in Asia has been incredibly rewarding, it's been humbling and at times, dare I say, torturous as well. One story comes to mind from one of our first major festival performances. I'm not just the cellist. I'm sitting in this production meeting. We land in China and the organizer asks, we'd love for you to be the headline of this festival. But we also noticed we love the lighting, the animation, the whole show, how it goes together in one cohesive production. So what about if we asked not only that you would perform here and headline the festival, but what if you could actually help us with the production of the entire thing? What if your lighting guys, your sound engineers, your production people, the animators could work on all the artists together? And at that point, my business partner and I looked at each other and we said, okay, sure. They said, great. So what if we gave you even more responsibility? What if we asked you to get us 8,000 chairs and 300 security guards and help with the advertising? And we looked at each other, having no idea how to do any of that. And we said, yeah, we could do that too. And then we proceeded to call every producer and every event coordinator that we knew within 200 miles and ask them all the important questions. And before you know it, we didn't only have a show, we had a production company. That dream reminded me, whether it's a symphony, a festival, or just Tuesday, great performances never happen by accident. They happen because time is structured. Fast forward from that high school dream orchestra to me landing in Asia and opening our Tectonic studio headquarters. One of the first things we did was not buy more gear. We hired a market entry consultant. This person goes through our whole operation with a fine-tooth comb and basically asks, what businesses are you actually in? We boil it down to 3 verticals: me as a performer and a speaker, our studio team that composes and licenses music, our social entrepreneurship work using music for mood enhancement and mental health for real world impact. Then they sit with us on the most unsexy part, the most valuable assignment, however, templatizing your main operations so that you can project manage everything, or your project manager can run them start to finish, or jump in halfway without any chaos. Take something simple as a live show or a keynote. Before templates, it lived in my head, which was a problem. And after templates, it lived on a checklist so the whole team could see. For a performance or a talk, the steps look like this. 1, confirm there is an event and who's in charge on the client side. 2, negotiate and sign the contract. 3, confirm the stage setup, the sound, the lights, the screens, the playback, the technical rider. What equipment do we need? 4, book the travel and the lodging. 5, make sure we actually get paid and know when. 6, decide on the topic and the flow of the presentation or the set. 7, lock in the wardrobe, any special props or instruments that need to be, delivered, and make sure that those are on site. 8, coordinate promo. What are we allowed to share? What assets do we need? What are we supposed to capture in terms of content at the event, photo, video, behind the scenes, post-event recap? And how should we follow up with the client? All of that is written out in order inside a shared template. Whether we're half asleep, jet lagged, or in another time zone, we're stepping into a project halfway through, they don't need to read anybody's minds. They just open the template, they run the play. And now that we're square inside the tidal wave of AI, I'd say that in addition to relying on our checklists, we're also relying on my trusty prompt book, which is coming to you on our Patreon soon. I've templatized and fine-tuned some of the most commonly needed productivity and life prompts about finance, business, email, fitness, creativity, and more, so that you don't have to. Stay tuned and sign up for our Patreon for more info soon. Back to templatizing. Let's discuss why it did more for my motivation than any quote on Instagram. Because most of the days, the thing killing your motivation is not a lack of inspiration. It's this low-grade fear of, I'm going to forget something important, or I don't even know where to start. Templates delete that fear. For touring, we have a travel packing list. I can pack for a trip in a time crunch or when I'm brain dead at 3 a.m. For music projects, our sessions, our project boards are templatized so that any producer or any project manager can jump in midstream and know exactly what's done and what happens next. It turns your work from reinvent the wheel every time into jump in and go. So you don't have to run a studio to steal this, though. Think about one area of your life that repeats the same messy steps. Maybe it's client projects, content creation, maybe it's travel, even your morning. If you wrote it out once, like my event template, future you could execute on autopilot. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're not at your best. That's what I mean when I say you don't need more time. You need a better system. We'll talk tools like Reclaim and time management frameworks like Pomodoro in a second, but the foundation is this. Design the template once so your week doesn't depend on a perfect version of you showing up every day. I need to testify. For years in New York, I only worked when I felt inspired. I'd be out at dinner, get hit with an idea, run back to the studio at 1 a.m. and stay there until sunrise. Some of my favorite records came out of that chaos. Anthems of life. Milk and Jade. Even my Dream State album It was a full-length LP that was woven out of melodies I jotted down in a dream journal. Pure lightning in a bottle. But there's a problem. Lightning doesn't care about your rent. It shows up when it wants, not when you need it. Then I started paying attention to how people we call geniuses actually use their time. There's this story about Eminem where he treats the studio like a 9 to 5. He walks in 9 a.m., works. At lunch, he stands up back at 1, and at 5 p.m., even if the track isn't done, he stands up and he's out.
Him just left. So
I'll see you tomorrow.
I feel like you joking, right? So no, I'm serious. So I get there at 9, and he shows up on time. Plays some beats, we vibing. He goes into his verse. 5 o'clock come. He's halfway in. He's like, all right, bro, I'm gonna see you tomorrow.
There's no romantic all-nighters. It's just relentless, repeatable blocks that add up to legendary output. In fitness, it's the same thing. MMA legend and undefeated kickboxing champion Kung Lee, who was our very first guest on Upgrade Me, talked about time under tension. It's not about how much weight you move once. It's about how long your muscles stay under smart, controlled stress. You can throw up 400 pounds on the bar for one ugly rep, or you can do 3 clean sets at a manageable weight and actually grow. Your brain is the same. Greatness is rarely a one explosive session. It's about how you structure your tension over time. AI can spit out 10 tracks in 30 seconds now. It's impressive robotics, but if you skip the time under tension, you never build yourself into the kind of artist, entrepreneur, or leader that can stand on stage and own it. So the question becomes, how much time under tension are you giving your craft every week? Is it structured, or is it just whenever you feel guilty enough? Here is a very unglamorous secret. Most days, my version of structured genius is just a timer. I work in what they call Pomodoro blocks. It started in survival mode. I realized I could get through all-nighters way easier if I promised myself a total break from work and screens once an hour. Now, what does that look like? It means like 45, 50 minutes fully on and 10 to 15 minutes fully off. And you can repeat that 4 to 7 times. During the time on, there's no multitasking, no just checking messages, no half scroll, half work. I'm in a sectional on one instrument, writing, practicing, editing, planning. And during the off, I stand up, I stretch, I drink water, maybe I jot a note down. I do not start a new big task. Pomodoro is just time under tension for your brain. Short focus sets that you can actually keep instead of fantasizing about a 10-hour deep work day that never arrives. I first heard about this without knowing about it. We were working on a music management platform in New York City, and it turns out they had learned it from a bunch of guys at a law firm. Those guys are commanding big bucks per hour, so the clients want to know that they're getting attention and results. Therefore, we make sure that everyone working would jot down which account they were working on every 15 minutes so that we can have an accurate record that all clients were getting attention. What the Pomodoro also continues to teach me is management of expectations and stress. When you have regular intervals with built-in breathers, you start to see how much you've actually got done in each block, and it also helps you break down the full assignment mentally. Instead of freaking out that you will never meet the deadline or you'll never finish a giant mountain of a task, you start to see and say to yourself, okay, maybe this will be done in 4 more blocks, then we'll be at the next milestone. And if you think this is just me being a productivity nerd, history has receipts. Let's speed run a few mega champions. Leonardo da Vinci, one of my favorites, the original, multi-hyphenate. He's a painter, an engineer, a scientist, an inventor. We don't have a Google Calendar export from 1503, but his 7,000 plus pages of notebooks give us a vibe check. He carried a notebook everywhere, constantly scribbling sketches, questions, and to-do lists, everything from flying machines and anatomy to describe the tongue of a woodpecker and describe what sneezing is, or yawning is, or fatigue, hunger, or sleep. Autobiographies say his days often swung between focused blocks of painting, drawing, blocks of engineering experiments, anatomy, and just wandering outside to measure and observe the world. He's absolutely my favorite. So he wasn't randomly multitasking 10 things at once. He was rotating obsessions, Different focus, same discipline. The lesson isn't to copy the probably mythical 2-hour sleep schedule that we've heard about him. It's to design our days so curiosity and deep work both have an actual time on the agenda. Take notes, give different type of work their own blocks. Never let a day go by without learning or observing something new. Mozart was basically a morning deep work guy. He'd get up around 6 a.m., he'd be at his desk by 7, and he'd spend a couple hours composing before teaching and performances took over the rest of the day. That is super focused monk-style mornings. So my version is at least 3 hours, 3 times a week, where the phone is off and only creation is allowed. Let's also remember the guy wrote over 600 pieces of music in his short 35 years on Earth. We are officially out of excuses. Bach had a small village of children, 20 to be exact, and he still wrote more music titles than some of the streaming platforms. In Leipzig, Germany, he was effectively on a 1 cantata a week schedule.
Hakuna Matata.
Not that. Music for the King's Sunday services, planning the next piece, composing midweek, then copying parts and rehearsing before the following Sunday. He didn't wait for silence. He built ritual inside the chaos. His weekly workflow was basically his noise-canceling headphones. Steve Jobs, Apple, Pixar, Disney board, and still somehow running a one-outfit fashion line. He was famous for his walking meetings. Taking long walks was always his preferred way to have a serious conversation. He was ruthless about killing non-essential meetings and projects so that he could focus on a few vital things. His superpower wasn't just taste. It was a calendar full of intentional yes and ruthless no's. These guys were all in different centuries with different tools, but same principles. They didn't wait for time to appear. They orchestrated it. They're not just built different, they're booked different. Before we nerd out on reclaim and templates some more, let me give you my reaction to a decade of therapy in 1 minute I just saw in a video from Victor Rickman.
Buckle up, Buttercup. I'm going to give you a decade of therapy in 1 minute. You ready? 90% of your problems are solved with one word: halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. More often than not, you just need a shower and to relax. There are no bad emotions. Emotions are just signals. Whenever you are feeling something.
Interesting. I'm with that, but too much of that and you might not get anything done. You need some grit.
There are no bad emotions. Emotions are just signals. Whenever you are feeling something, ask yourself why. More often than not, it's going to help lead you to the problem, and that's the thing you can fix. Stop trying to think your way out of a bad mood. If you're angry,
I used to say that we always should make decisions based on playground rules and our true emotions. When we choose business partners, whether we choose romantic partners, life partners, we think about what is the pure essence of that person and what is the pure motivation. We don't think about what they could potentially do for us. And, we didn't think about that when we were in kindergarten, right? We were like, who's cool? Who treats me great? Who has a good chemistry and vibe with me? And let's go with that rather than, oh, you probably have a lot of toys at home, or you probably are going to become a billionaire. It ain't about that. It's about vibe. It's about chemistry. It's about human interaction. That takes us the furthest.
If you're anxious, you're living in the future. If you're sad, you're living in the past. And the only way to be at peace is to live in the present. I'm going to say this one real loud for the back. Motivation wanes, discipline compounds. Some days you're not going to have the motivation to get out of bed. Some days you're not going to want to do the hard thing. But when you have discipline, when you tell yourself every single day, I will be going to the gym at 7 a.m., for example, and you make it a habit, that stays, that sticks. And even when you don't have the motivation, you still go.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about this a lot on this channel. We talk about how small positive habits compound. Discipline is muscle memory. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of motivational quotes out there, and there's a lot of people that inspire us, but ultimately it's that inertia that you build on your own, with one small step becoming one giant step.
You do not rise to your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. If you want to live an amazing life, don't shoot for some big ambitious goal every day. Instead, make small little changes all year long so that by the time you're done, you have an amazing baseline life. Set that alarm for 7 a.m. every day, no matter what. Set your meal prep every day. Eat the same thing, no matter what. When you have control, you have power.
Yeah, we're talking about that templates, right? You can fall to your lowest point, but if that template is there for you as a safety net, you'll never fall beneath that.
Learn and leave it. Anytime something bad happens, learn a lesson, think about it, work your way through it, process and feel the emotions, and then leave that shit in the past. Do not waste time and precious energy living in something that's already happened.
I like that. Good stuff. All right, history lesson is over, but let's talk about right now, my actual messy life. Sometimes working with limitations is the most motivating thing. I started using an app called Reclaim.ai. It connects to my Google Calendar and it lets me list a few priorities in my life and how often they should happen per week. The magic happens when it plays calendar Tetris. If a meeting pops up, it shuffles my focus blocks to another slot. It's like having a tiny little robotic assistant that only cares about my priorities. The hard part is not in the app, like I said. The hard part is being brutally honest about your priorities. It took me a while, but finally, I realized my life really runs on 3 blocks. Priority number 1. In fact, this video was scripted while I was doing 45 minutes of focus work, followed by 15 minutes of jumping rope until it was done. If health falls apart, the music, the content, the business all die with it. So I need to be outdoors in the gym. I need to be at the pool, moving at least 5 times a week. Right now, I average about 60 minutes a day, biking, lifting, running, swimming, stretching. And I keep my policy so that if somebody invites me to virtually anything fitness related, I'll go. I try to do that first thing in the morning so that by breakfast time, I've already banked 1 win. Block 2, creativity. But I split it into lanes: creation, editing, practice, learning new tools. On a typical week, about 3 hours, 3 times a week. So that's around 9 hours of true creative time, where I'm writing, recording, editing, practicing the cello or the trombone, or I'm learning some new music software or AI workflow. Reclaim doesn't personally care because it's a robot. It doesn't care what flavor it is. It just makes sure that something creative happens instead of getting sacrificed to email. I often joke that my real job is writing thousands of emails and attending meetings all the time, and as a bonus, I get to go on stage a few dozen times a year. Wah. Block 3 is business development. Even though we work with amazing agencies, great event producers, brands all over the world, I've believed that your circles and your colleagues are only a fraction as inspired as you are. Nobody's going to care about your projects, your career, or your passion as much as you do. My best friend said it best. Nobody's going to care about you more than yourself and maybe your mom. So I put about 2 hours, 3 times a week, 6 hours minimum into biz dev. That means outreach, calls, proposals, emails, relationship building. If you add it up, that's roughly 7 hours of health, 9 hours of creativity, 6 hours of biz dev. That's only 22 hours of a so-called 40-hour week. So the rest is travel, logistics, inbox, fires. This whole episode is basically me trying to move more of that chaos into those 3 buckets on purpose. When I say I had a productive week, I don't mean that I answered 200 emails. I mean, I moved my body, I made things, I opened doors, and everything else is extra. And if you can believe it, this podcast is a passion project. So after I've cleared out all the points above and behind, we get to planning guests, responding to comments, scripting the future Upgrade Me themes for you all. So if you're listening right now, please consider supporting there so we can continue elevating this channel together. We appreciate each and every one of you. Right as I was outlining this episode, Bryan Johnson, the biohacking alien that wants to live forever, he drops an episode called 8 Steps to Reclaim Your Life. One of his lines that I really like is basically, waiting for motivation is a fail state. Build discipline instead. It doesn't need sunny days or the right moment, just one right choice, then another. Check, we've covered that as well. Same principle. Don't trust motivation. Build a system that flies you towards who you say you want to be. All right, we've talked about Leonardo's rotating obsessions, Mozart's mornings, Bach's weekly grind, Steve Jobs' walking meetings, my 3 blocks, and Bryan Johnson screaming discipline over motivation. Let's turn all that into something you can actually do this week. Even if you've never touched a cello or opened a music software program in your life. 1. Pick your 3 life buckets. First, steal my structure and make it yours. I run on health, creation, business opportunity. Yours might be health, family relationships, craft or career, whatever they are, write it down. Buckets that if they get consistent time, your life gets better. Almost automatically, it's going to start happening. Number 2, set the minimum reps, not perfect days. Give each bucket a minimum weekly dose. It's like your prescription. Health. Move my body 5 times a week for at least 60 minutes each time. Works for me. Creation, 3 focus sessions where I'm making something, not consuming. Business and opportunity, 3 sessions a week of reaching out, following up, or learning something that moves my money mission forward. Notice I didn't say be perfect every day. This is about minimum reps, not a flawless montage. Now we plug it into time. Pick whichever tool you like, whether it's Reclaim, Google Calendar, paper notebook, but block the actual time for these buckets. A morning walk or a workout block, a Pomodoro block after breakfast to make something, a short evening or afternoon block for emails, calls, proposals, or learning. If tech helps, cool. If not, you can literally draw 3 colored boxes for the week. The point is your priorities exist somewhere other than in your head. When your week goes sideways, and it will, don't throw the whole plan out. Just default to the smallest version. Is that a 10-minute walk? Is that one 25-minute Pomodoro on your thing? One email or DM that could open a door. Discipline doesn't have to be heroic. It just has to be repeatable. End each day with one quick question. Did I feed at least one of my 3 buckets today? If yes, you won something. If no, don't spiral. Just let tomorrow's calendar reflect that. Give that bucket a little more love. You don't need Leonardo's notebooks, Mozart's mornings, Bach's church job, Steve Jobs' board seats, or Bryan's lab budget. You need 3 things that matter. A few blocks of time you can actually protect, and the courage to keep showing up, especially on the boring days. That's how you reclaim your life, 1 week at a time. Maybe your life doesn't feel like a fine-tuned symphony yet. Maybe it feels like noise, or maybe you're always playing catch-up to everyone else's tempo. But if you start treating your time like an orchestra, if you respect planning, practice, and performance, you'll be shocked at how quickly things start to sound different. If all that doesn't work for you, then here's a video of former heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, getting back up from the dead like the Undertaker after the entire world thought he was knocked into another dimension by the bronze bomber, D'Anthony Wilder. I used to watch this every single time I felt couch-locked or stuck thinking that I should do the next thing and actually wasn't. Hopefully it inspires you to get up off of that donut cushion as well. Remember, you are the conductor, you are the instrument, you are the composer, and you are in charge of your destiny. Keep on upgrading. This is Upgrade Me with Dana Leong. Stay safe, stay strong.